Well, hello and welcome to Books and Beyond. My name is Jimmy Bennett. I'm your host. Books and Beyond is a show for highlighting people's creative talents, local people, people that you know. Um, also, I just want to talk for 1 minute about the Connecticut Authors and Publishers Association. I'm a member, and so is my guest today. We both belong to different chapters. I'm in the Southeast chapter, he's in the Southwest chapter. But CAPA is an organization for writers, illustrators, publishers, anybody who has anything to do with the written word. It's a great networking. It's a wonderful way to meet other writers and maybe find some help that you need or get some direction. I have to tell you, one of the greatest things I think about CAPA is when you leave the meeting, you feel inspired to continue on, to keep writing, and something that we urge everybody to do. So, anyways, I have a really great guest today. His name is Jack Levine. And
Hi.
Jack, how are you?
Doing great. How are you doing?
Good, good. I have your bio here in front of me, Jack, and I'm just like astounded. It looks like a criminal rap sheet. It's great. But first, I'd like to talk to you about the books you've written. You have 5 books on Amazon. Laughing Out Loud, a memoir, primer for the performing arts, tales of mirth and madness, parodies and comedy skits, and 10-minute one-act plays. Can you tell me a little about, what
Sure.
you're doing here?
Yeah. Well, actually, the first book, memoirs, the Laughing Out Loud memoir, I actually started a few years ago when I retired. A friend of mine suggested that I write a memoir and give it to my grandchildren. So I did that. I showed it to some people other than my family who thought it might be interesting to other people. So that's when I published that. And it was a lot of fun. And then I got into improv, stand-up comedy, acting, did some personal storytelling and things like that. So I wrote a book on that from a novice's point of view, and that had some anecdotes and things that happen on stage that were embarrassing, amusing, whatever. And then the third book, I had never written any fictional stories, so I wrote 8. I wrote 4 comedic and 4 dramatic. And then I had also been writing some parodies and comedy skits, one of which has been produced on a radio show. And the last one, and since March of this year, I've been writing 10-minute plays, and 7 of them have been viewed as being pretty good. One has already been produced, and I'm hoping that the others will be produced, over the next year. So that's a recap.
So have you been writing? I mean, your whole life, or what did you do before you became a writer? Or
Yeah. Well, I was county chief financial officer for better half of my last 50 years that I was working. And then in accounting positions, operations positions, worked banks, manufacturing, and I ended up in a couple of school districts. I wrote 3 articles that were published in national business magazines, but they were technical. I had never written a novel or a play or anything like that. But I just found, I read a lot. I still read a lot. And I think everybody that reads, certainly everybody reads, and if not everybody else, thinks they could write or wants to write. So I just actually sat down and did it. And I found it to be exhilarating.
good, good. Yeah, I mean, a lot of us. I didn't start really writing seriously, until my late 50s. No, maybe middle 50s. I've written my whole life, but threw it in boxes. Never really, I always tell people, life has a way of getting in the way, with mortgages and children and marriage and but when I got a little older and I had the time and stuff, that's when I really started to write. But you seem to have found quite a niche in performing.
Right. Well, the last business meeting that I was in, I was one of the speakers, and I met the main speaker, and we were just chatting the night before the the workshop started, and he said that he had done stand-up comedy and he'd done improv, and it just sounded interesting. So I just decided to show up at CT Comedy Theater in Hartford and took a class in improv, and ended up taking, oh my gosh, about 7 or 8 classes and different workshops and stuff, and been on stage a number of times. And then I decided to try stand-up, and then eventually it ended up trying acting, and I've been in a few plays. I'm rehearsing for one now, and I also have another play that we were rehearsing and will be rescheduled for 2021. But I love to perform. It's really good. I play different roles, but we can get into that if you like.
Yeah, we will. But tell me about the stand-up comedy. Did you like performing in front of a live audience?
Yeah, I've never. Well, when I was young, I was very, very, very shy, and I got over that by just keep on pushing myself to get in front of people and stuff. So now I'm not so shy. The stand-up comedy, I really wanted to try once, so I took a course from a professional stand-up comedian, and I've done 7 performances on stage. I would not say I was good. I wasn't bad, but it wasn't great or anything like that. But I was, I got some laughs, and I had a ball. When I was doing it, it was just a lot of fun. The first time I was going to do it, I almost didn't go on stage because I was so nervous. But then I decided, let's do it. So once I was on stage, uh, really not nervous at all. Uh, I think the biggest thing on stand-up comedy is just having faith in yourself and going for it. If you're going to worry about what people are going to think, then you get that in your head, you can't do it. So I do pretty straightforward stand-up comedy, um, more telling stories, and I don't get into the blue humor and all the stuff that you hear in bars. So my kind of humor could be to almost anybody. And I didn't get into politics or into religion or anything that would get people upset. So they may have thought it was funny or not, but I had both. I really did. But I
Well,
stopped doing that and improv for a while because I've been writing and because I've been acting. I did do a stand up at the Palace Theater along with some other things on March 3rd, the Palace Theater in Waterbury. I had a show there, and that went over pretty good. But I've been doing mostly acting and writing right now.
that's great. I just admire that. I always had sort of a dream to do a stand-up one time in my life, but
You got to
and
do it.
well, things pop up in my head and I think I'm funny, but then if I had to sit there and script it, I'm not sure I could. I think about it sometimes, and yeah, maybe perhaps I will sometime when things start to open up again. Um,
I find my funniest is when I improv it.
yeah,
And when I first started to take improv, the first level that I took, the instructor called me boring, and I was boring because I was trying to be funny. And the best comedy that comes from me is when I do things off the top of my head. So
right,
improv is very helpful. So when I'm going to go tell a story, I have the general outline of what I'm going to talk about, but I kind of do it extemporaneously so that it's not stilted and it's more relaxed. And people want to laugh. When people
right.
come to comedies, they're in the mindset they want to laugh. So if you don't insult them and you have fun and you say something that's true, but they don't expect you to say it, they'll laugh. And if they don't laugh, well, they don't laugh. I mean, I'm not doing it professionally. I'm doing it for fun. So,
Yeah,
I just do it.
right, right. So now, did your writing? Were you writing before you performed, or sort of in between? Both.
No, just other than the 3 articles that I had published. I had 3 articles published in national magazines while I was working. They were technical stuff, uh, and I was always told I was a good writer. But when I started writing, it wasn't with the idea that I was going to publish 5 novels, 5 books. It was with the idea of writing a memoir, because I didn't know what I was going to do when I did retire until I was 72. And it wasn't that I needed the money or anything. It was just that I was afraid to retire because I was chief financial officer of a school district, and I loved my job and everybody I worked with, but I just didn't know what I was going to do. The only hobby I had was reading. So my cousin was one who suggested that I write a memoir for my grandchildren and my daughters if they want to read it someday. And that's what I did, and it was a lot of fun. And then I ended up showing it to some people, as I said, and they liked it and thought I should publish it. So that's what started it all.
Well, that's an important point I make to a lot of people too when they write, or even if they don't ever plan on publishing or anything, that it's for your children, your grandchildren
Right.
down the road. I would like to think that, 100 years from now, some distant descendant of mine will pick up one of my books, and read it and just maybe get a sense of the time or me, or and be a little, you know, happy to see something like that. I'm very interested in my family's genealogy, and always I love the old stories from my grandparents and my uncles, and and I write them all down for my children in case I don't get a chance to tell them someday, and I think that's a great thing, and it's a point that everybody can do it. Even just a recording. Even if you tape it or record it, on your computer or something. It's just something that it leaves something of you behind for the future generations to look at, and that's, I think, important for family, for your history, and just for life in general.
It was also very, it was a lot of fun because I wrote it in a stream of consciousness where I just sat and wrote things just that came to mind, and then I ended up reorganizing it into chapters that made sense, like when I was in the army or when I was at college or the high school or the different parts of my life. Uh, but I did, obviously you can't write everything in your life, but you start selecting the things that are fun things. And my oldest grandchild, who's 14, has read some of it, and he would bring out things, and he remembers the time I was umpiring a game. It was a little league championship game, and I was umpiring the bases, and the it did one of these things the umpire should do, and the kid was out, but I was so sure he was going to be safe. I made the safe sign and yelled out. It was a tournament in West Haven, and both sides were yelling, and they weren't too happy. So the person, I called them out, but uh, and then also meeting my wife in an elevator, and he said, "Grandpa, did you really meet Grandma in an elevator?" I mean, just little things like
Right.
that. Just kind of fun. They're exciting
Yep.
that they
Did
would
your
read
daughter
it.
did your daughter learn things about you that she didn't know?
Um, I think a little bit. I asked my daughters what they thought. They said they pretty well knew all the stories. I mean, I'm kind of a storyteller by nature. Love to talk about things and listen to other people talk. So it wasn't like they didn't know a lot of the stories. I think some of them they didn't know because I don't remember saying them. Uh, but I also did it on things that I kind of put myself down, like when I got a date with somebody and forgot their name. That didn't go over too well.
Yep.
But there were just things that happen in your life, and you're sharing it. I know my mom's passed away, and my father and my brother, and my mom wrote a book, and it's just not a book, just notes of things she had to do, and I've saved that since she's passed away. And it's like finding a shopping list from somebody that you love that's not around, and you say, well, why would you save something like that? Well, it's a sentimental connection to that
Yeah.
person, and that to me is important.
Well, that's why part of the reason why I write a lot of stuff down too is I'm hoping that someday I have two sons, and I'm hoping that someday they'll read it and see me as not just a father or a parent, but that I was a person like them. That
Right.
I went through the same, well, different times, but you don't look at your parents and think that they actually had their heart broken at one time, or
Right.
won the championship game, or that kind of thing. And when you see that, it makes them more of a person, more of a real person.
Yes.
I think that's important.
Right.
So now I gotta ask you about a few things, because I'm really interested. You've done a lot of on stage performances. Um, how did you like that? How was that working with a full cast and a director? And
Yeah, I was very nervous during rehearsals. Uh, I was very unsure of myself, but I had a lot of help. I was very lucky. The first one was at Cheshire Community Theater. It was a production of Arsenic and Old Lace, and I played Officer Brophy, which has about 50 lines in it. And I learned my lines, and I was nervous during the dress rehearsal. I goofed up a little bit, and but all the actors there, most of which were much more experienced than me. There was just there was one other fellow he's a dentist, and it was his first acting performance. But once I actually got on stage for the first time, I really felt fine. And every time I've been on stage, I don't get nervous. I really don't. I enjoy the moment so much. As long as you're prepared, as long as you know the lines, I just love it because I get into the character, and I really enjoy the whole thing of acting. It's a lot of fun.
yeah, I can imagine. I often wondered. I haven't really done a stage play or any kind of performances like that live. I've
Right.
often wondered, though, what to feel like to get dressed, a certain way, and have to change your demeanor a little bit, and I think that's just pretty fascinating. When you do a play, how many performances of that play do you do?
Well, it depends. The one we did at Arsenic and Old Lace, we did three. We did one on a Friday night and two on Saturday, matinee and evening performance. You Can't Take It With You had three performances, and if you call the dress rehearsal, which you actually had an audience there, so that would have been four. Um, and I did this ferry ride at the Suffield Players in Suffield, Connecticut. That had two performances, one both on Saturday, one at 2 and one at 8. The one I'm doing now, you haven't changed a bit. It's going to be on Zoom, and then what they're going to do is we're going to do it once, and it's going to be filmed, and then it's going to be aired sometime in September. The other one that I'm working on that I was rehearsing, and it's been on hold because of the COVID-19, is 12 Angry Jurors. It's similar to the play 12 Angry Men uh, that Henry Fonda was in. I'm sure people remember that.
Yep.
But it's called Jurors because it's got 5 of the 12 jury members are women. I'm juror number 2. We were well into rehearsal, so I'm not too sure how many shows that was. That was going to be 3 or 4. I think that was supposed to be 4. So usually there are 3, 2, 3, 4. Um, Sometimes productions will be longer. As an actor, I'm glad to do it multiple times, but it really depends on the company what they're doing.
Right, right.
So
It's the you said this a bit. You're going to do it on Zoom,
right.
so they will film the entire play like on stage.
No, we won't be on stage. We'll do it sitting down. The director's gonna figure out with the tech person the background to make it the same for. In my play, there's 2 actors, so we're each doing it at our home, and the director's doing it from
Okay.
her home. So they'll figure out how the back will be for each of us. so it'll look the same. And we'll be sitting down, which is kind of quite different because if we were doing this on stage, this particular play, we would be standing and walking around. I kind of like that because part of what they call blocking and moving around, it helps you remember lines a lot easier because you kind of associate when you're picking up something, dropping something off, walking a certain direction. But in this particular play, we were actually rehearsing before this show. I'm actually looking on the side at an empty chair where the other actor's supposed to be. And I'm Len and she's Lottie. So I'm talking to an empty chair. So I'm listening to what she's saying and trying to make sure the timing is right. And it's quite different. I've done about a half a dozen readings online where you do a character, but you have the script in front. I've done where a colonel who is a 60-year-old colonel who is an alcoholic, a real nasty person. Then I've done it where I was Scrooge 30 years after he died and come back as a comedy, come back as one of the three ghosts. I've done it as a caretaker of an autistic person. And I've done a couple others. So I do different roles and act, and I love it because, in fact, the one I'm doing now is I'm an 88-year-old person. I have to be 76, but 88-year-old person who is in love with this high school person, this person who's 88, who he had seen in high school, but she's married somebody else, didn't really have any interest in him, and so we meet at a meeting for the 70th high school reunion, and she doesn't know that we're the only two. So it's a very warm type of thing. So I get into the role and I learn the lines, and I really, it really is fun. I played the Officer Brophy. That's kind of a police officer that's not the sharpest tool in the shed, but he's a nice guy. I played Mr. DePina, and You Can't Take It With You. He's a smart guy, but really a nerd with women, and it was really funny on that one. And then in This Fairy Life, I play an older gentleman who's lost his wife, but you don't find that out to the end. And he's a little bit melancholy, but he's an interesting guy with an interesting slant to the story. So they all were different in their own way, and it was fun to create it and perform.
How do you? Number one, I want to say I think that's a great story. You show up for your 70th high school reunion, and there's only two of you. I think that's fantastic. That is really great. I just decided to say that. But what do you prefer playing? Do you like playing the bad guy, or do you like playing the nice guy, or?
I like playing different people. I really enjoy doing different roles. If I had my choice, I would do. I want anything that's different, that's challenging. When you do the same role, it doesn't interest me as much. You try to figure out what the character's like, figure out the backstory, figuring out how they feel, how they act. And because they say, if you look like you're acting, you're doing a bad job. Right. So if you're to perform, you need to feel the character. You need to talk the lines and react to the lines in the way that character would be. Right. And I love that. I spend a lot of time rehearsing, a lot of time practicing by myself, and then of course with the other actor. It's a lot of work, but it's energizing. So what I like to do, I want to be a different character than I've been in the past.
Yeah.
And that's what I love.
Well, that's great. Do you have a particular community players that you stick with, or do you when you see the call go out?
No, I know a lot of actors, and I am taking acting lessons from fellow that is an off-Broadway actor and a quite capable person, because I'm very anxious to do the best job I can. I don't plan on being on Broadway or anything like
Yeah.
that, but I do want to continue doing community theater. Uh, so I know a lot of actors, but I've never acted. No, that's not true. I've acted with some of the same actors. Like, for example, The Arsenic in Old Lace was the first one. And now in the one that we haven't quite done yet, we've rehearsed and it's going to be rescheduled, 12 Angry Jurors. I would say a little more than half of the actors there I had also acted with in Arsenic and Old Lace. They're excellent actors. They have a lot of
Great.
experience. I have a smaller role in each of these. I've never had a lead role or anything like that, but I found that actors are really a tight knit group, and they really will help you. That's what you have to trust the process. You have to trust the other actor, because you will forget lines or you make a mistake, or they will, and you have to be prepared to. You can't let the audience know you've made a mistake.
Right.
The audience, they're in their zone, and they realize that it's an illusion, and they accept that. But when the actor breaks out of it, says, "Oh, I made that mistake," that forces the audience to say, "Oh, this is not real," and that turns off audience.
Right.
So you have to stay in it, and even if you forget your lines, you just have to plow through it and hope that your fellow actor helps you out, or vice versa. But acting is a little bit scary. It's challenging, but it's exhilarating. It's a lot of fun.
Well, you know what? My God, we're flying through the time here. We've got a few minutes left, but one thing I did want to talk to you about real quick was your 10-minute one-act plays, because that really seemed that seems fascinating to me. Now, how does that work?
Well, I started writing it in March when the pandemic made us stay at home, at least those of us that wanted to stay home. I've written 7, and one's been produced. I hope to have the rest of them produced over time. They're on different subjects, different things. I sit down and I just write, and I'll be writing at 2, 3 o'clock in the morning sometimes. Just depends. Whenever I get the urge and have an idea, I'll write, and then it goes through the self-editing. And then I have a few people that are very good at reading it and saying whether it's good or not. I have a friend that's a director. I have a friend that's an actor, and then of course my wife.
And then you do these plays? Then you perform
have I acted in a place? No, the one that was produced was done on a reading. You just listen as the playwright and get an idea of other actors doing it. I'm hoping that another one will be read, but that will be up to the person who's in charge of it. Then when the pandemic is over, I'm hoping that I'll be submitting the plays to various directors and producers. You never know. There's thousands and thousands of plays out there, and it just sometimes they like it,
along, right?
Yeah,
that's
great.
I just want to tell people that you can see these on the newplayexchange.org. Is that that's the address?
Right.
Jack, I'm so sorry, but we are running out of time.
Had a lot of fun. Thank you.
Yeah, it was great. And after the pandemic's over and you get back up on stage, I'd love to have you back on. We can talk about how things went and where things are going. All right.
Good. Thank you.
Thank you so much, Jack. I hope everybody enjoyed the show today. Fascinating guest. I think that you should check out the plays when you can. I know it's going to be a little while before we're back in the theaters and back in the audiences, but I encourage everybody to go and check it out. And I want to thank you all for tuning in this week. This has been Books and Beyond. I'm Jimmy Bennett, your host, and see you next time. Until then, keep reading, write, watch small, and buy small. Support your local businesses and support your local television stations. Take care.